ranking the scene.
Welcome, everybody, to Ranking the Scene, where every week we bring albums from the alternative music scene and rank them against other albums from the alternative music scene in an ever-growing tier list to figure out what the best album of all time is. Ever,
it's that simple. It's the end goal,
it's
right?
super fucking simple. Even a child could understand. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can go back and watch every episode of the show leading up to this most current one before I scroll up and spoil the current standings. We have a playlist over on our YouTube channel. If you enjoy the show, leave a thumbs up, please. If you disagree with any of our choices, go ahead and comment. We appreciate the engagement. And if you want early access to brand new episodes of the show, you can sign up at patreon.com/SOTS podcast for only $3 a month. You also get access to bonus episodes of our podcast, and whatever other bullshit we do over there. It's good stuff, and it's super cheap. Hard sell right there. Good shit, cheap.
I'm about to sign up for it.
I'll take your money. This week, Marcos, we bring Disposed by The Plot in You, The Love You Let Too Close by Thousand Below, and From Death to Destiny by Asking Alexandria. Let's scroll up and see the current standings. Oh boy.
Look at that.
At the very top of the list, still remains Dying Is Your Latest Fashion by Escape the Fate. Right behind it, Issues in their self-titled album, as well as The Spark by Enter Shikari, followed by an assortment of other albums, as you see here. There are a bunch of tiers, and they go as follows. Goat at the very top, followed by Masterpiece, then Certified Hood Classic, That Bitch, Just Okay, Pretty Mid, Fucking Awful, and A Crime to Humanity. As you can see, we have not yet experienced a fucking awful or crime to humanity during this process, which, you know, God willing, we never will.
They're coming.
God,
They're coming. No,
you can feel it like in the air.
I promise.
Okay. Anything before we get started, before we jump to our very first album, Marcos, just as you look at the current standings, anything you want to speak to, or are you ready to just fucking plow forward?
Not yet, but I can see myself having some thoughts months from now, I'm willing to bet.
Okay, interesting.
Maybe a year from now, you know, like
you won't trust your former self a year from now. Yeah.
I'm starting to look at some of these albums and I'm like, the Wonder Years at the bottom of Just Okay. Like, do I already have to go and re-listen to that? Maybe, maybe not.
I don't know. I feel like once it's locked in, and there's nothing you can do about it.
No, you're not wrong.
Let's talk a little bit about Disposed by The Plot in You, Marcos. God, I love the fucking genius bio descriptions on these albums. Disposed, stylized as Dispose in all caps. The band's fourth studio album. The lyrics and mood on the record depict the emotional experiences of lead singer-songwriter Landon Torres, who was in the middle of a toxic breakup while recording the album. In terms of sound and lyrics, Dispose also marks the band's departure from their previous sound as ... something or another about heavy metalcore, I assure you.
This one...
this one, Marcos.
It dropped in 2018.
Yeah, it did.
Damn.
Yeah, it did.
Damn.
When this dropped, it was peak.
Yeah, this one's like... this one was a notable drop in this scene.
Yeah.
Like, things changed when this released.
Yeah. This landed like, you know, when an anime character like fucking falls out of the sky and then like all of the trees like blow over, like there's this huge fucking like dust like, you know, when Goku fucking like comes down and just like, and if like it leaves a crater in the ground and shit, and like everybody's like,
I guess,
you know, it's like a whole thing. That's how the fucking Disposed by The Plot and You landed. Anime character.
Yeah,
style.
this one's an important one.
Very important. From the opening seconds, bro. I forgot how good of an opener Rigged was. Rigged,
so good.
I had this thought listening to this album. The opener and the closer on an album are the two most important songs, and I don't know that it's ever been done better than Rigged and Disposable Fix.
Disposable Fix in particular is like, it might be my favorite Plot in You song. It's that important to me. Yeah. It's that important to this band's discography for me.
Yeah.
it's just revolutionary. And that's most of this album. Like, there's stuff this band is doing on this record that I'd never heard another scene band do. And to me, that's a really important thing. And I take that into consideration on where and how it places on this tier list. Like you said, it has a wonderful opening and a wonderful beginning. And the stuff in the middle is fucking nuts too.
I feel very strongly that this is the death of Peace of Mind before the death of Peace of Mind.
You're not wrong.
Take Me Back to Eden before Take Me Back to Eden. I think this album ultimately is going to end up being more influential than the vast majority of records that ever dropped in this scene in terms of like setting the tone for everything that came after.
The hairs on like the back of my arm stood up higher listening to this record than it did those two records you just mentioned.
Yeah, and it's
like,
crazy
that's how
to think of how
iconic this one is
influential
to me.
those albums are now.
Yeah. And then, like, you know, we talk about this coming out in 2018. It sees all of its success after 2018 when Feel Nothing suddenly blows up on TikTok.
Deservedly so. Like,
Deservedly
thank God
so.
this album got the love ultimately that it deserved, even though I will say that a lot of people did appreciate this record at the time it dropped.
Sure, yeah. Us included, for sure. This definitely dropped into our top 5 for that year, probably. What beat it? Technology?
I know. I'm trying to think
Broco?
like what the fuck else happened in 2018. Like I don't remember.
2018 was Technology by Broco, wasn't it?
That sounds correct.
Sounds correct.
You and I are Broco marks, so like it is what it is. But I'd have to go back and look. I can never remember. So is it fair to say Landon Torres is one of the most emotionally raw vocalists and writers that we have ever had, and also a genius?
Yeah. Well, and you're like stopping yourself short of all the other extra stuff he is. So he's a visionary.
I could go on for
right?
days. Yes, that's precisely correct.
And you see that when you listen to tracks like The Sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one you loved.
The title-ish track, Disposable Fix. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the through line of pure absolute rock bottom that is like not just breathing. I always wanted to feel nothing. The one you love, Disposable. Like, this album is so incredibly tragic, and I don't maybe personally connect with it, but it communicates its message so well that I feel as if
connect
I'm
with where it came from.
Like, I personally can't say that I've experienced all of the exact emotions and like things that were conveyed.
You never felt nothing, Sam?
Not the way
you're
Landon
so
Torres,
fake.
Not the way Landon Torres has felt nothing. I'm going to be honest with you. Just absolutely not the same way. I'm sorry.
Just a generational talent at feeling nothing.
Marcus, I would say it's such a generational talent that I would argue, and you're going to be pissed with me, that it might be the #1 album we've ever done.
On the show.
What I'm saying is it's the top of GOAT.
You might not be wrong.
I just think it's a considered genius in a way that Dying Is Your Latest Fashion feels like a stumbled upon genius.
You're
like
not wrong.
One guy,
I know.
like one guy invented the like whatever, and then the other one like found it. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same thing.
Okay, well let's talk
metaphor.
this through. So
Talk it through.
So definitely it's better than that bitch. It's better than Hood Classic.
Easy.
I really only see 2 tiers it could ever land in, and you're right. It's masterpiece, it's GOAT.
Are you as enthusiastic as me though? That's the question.
It's interesting to think about.
Think about it. All right, let's start here then. Is it over The Spark by Enter Shikari?
It is.
Okay.
It's over Issues too.
So then is it better than Dying Is Your Latest Fashion by Escape the
That's
Fate?
the only question here is it better or worse than that? Is it behind it or is it in front of it?
Yes. Precisely correct.
No, I mean I could see this being in front of.
You could see it, but are you willing to do it?
Ugh.
Do you got to see it?
Just let me see it.
Option A. Option B.
They're both 2 very attractive options, Sam. I don't know.
Z.
Stop. Don't even joke.
What are we thinking?
Where
are we dropping?
Where are you dropping it?
Where are we dropping?
Is it a Fortnite?
Sounds like that. My new thing is I make Fortnite references. What else happens in that fucking game?
I don't know if this record is all perfect.
Okay.
But I guess that Escape album's not all perfect either.
Escape Fate album is certainly not all perfect.
I don't think you need to be all perfect to be the GOAT.
Is Disposable Fix and Feel Nothing on the same level as Situations and...
Not Good Enough for Truth and Cliche?
Yes.
Yeah.
But is it better then?
I mean, the question is, like, are any of the other songs better than, like, My Apocalypse, you know? Like, that's what we're talking here.
I would say this album is a more consistent, well thought out, start to finish, like, complete product than Dying Is Your Latest Fashion, which is more of a mishmash of ideas that I think all end up working incredibly well, but it's not as, like, well considered as this record is. This record is this is an album. Like, from start to finish, we're communicating an experience, an idea. Like, we've put together this perfect piece of art that encapsulates someone's experience, and I think it is so forward thinking, and I think it completely broke the mold of what everybody else was doing, and I think it's levels of genius that I don't think I would attribute to the album in front of it. To me, this feels right. Yay or nay?
I don't know if personally.
You can push back.
I don't know if personally I'm completely with you, but
okay,
I don't think
back.
that looks wrong.
Yeah, but then, like, this is it. Like, make your call right now. Push back or don't.
We're talking. Dying Is Your Latest Fashion has like 12 years on this record, like a 12-year head start for me, you know, as far as time spent.
So you're saying right now, personally, you're thinking, well, technically I love this album more.
I do, but I can recognize that. Is it a better record than that Disposed record? Probably not. So yeah, I think this does look fine. I think ultimately, as far as everything else we've talked about, these two are clearly above everything else.
I think that's incredibly fair. Marcus, we then move on. Goodbye. Let's talk about... What the fuck is this shit? Go away. Don't talk to me right now. Go away.
Doesn't wanna.
Go away. The Love You Let Too Close by 1,000 Below. Just the song. Just the song.
Just the song.
Just the song. We're just going to talk about the song right now. Apologies, everyone. The Love You Let Too Close. What is the most popular song of The Love You Let Too Close by 1,000 Below? What do you think the answer is here, Marcos? I'm curious. No Place Like You with a
makes
total of
sense.
25K. Okay.
Makes sense. I mean, I don't know if that's how you really
I don't know
gauge
that. Yeah,
that,
I don't think looking up the Genius lyrics is technically how you do it. But
this is 1,000 Below's debut record.
Yeah. That's
the important piece here.
On Rise Records.
On Rise Records.
2017 feels like an eternity. I can't believe this album is that fucking old.
This is older than Dispose.
It's older than Dispose. This album's like brand fucking new to me.
It kind of does feel pretty new still.
This album is so old. Gauges were still fucking popular. Like, look at this fucking picture right there. This is crazy right now.
Bro, this album's so old. Jimmy still had long hair.
Good point.
Yeah.
That's the telltale sign
of
how old the 1,000 Below album is. All right. It actually blew my fucking mind how well this album held up.
It holds up extremely well. And I kind of had a feeling it would. Like, I always, in my heart of hearts, I always knew this album was fucking near perfect. I absolutely love this one. We'll get there. But like,
he's saying.
But I hadn't really gone back to it anytime recently. So yeah. I'm sitting there looking at, like, you know, do I really remember what tracks like Never Here and Sleepless sound like? The Wolf in the Sea. And those are some of the best fucking songs on here. I love The Wolf in the Sea. I love every track on here. They're so good, you know. No Place Like You really is a fucking special song. A lot of the band won't tell you this, but Carry the Weight is one of their best songs.
Okay.
There's so much good stuff on here.
1,000 Below hate their first album?
No, I don't know. We can ask.
Okay.
Do I call them?
I'll ask. I don't know if I go that far. I don't want to bother someone.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This album's not it's also not extremely special in that, like, we've certainly heard a sound like this before. It's not revolutionary like Dispose by The Plot and You.
You know what this album has? It has like passion. Like it has it has like unweighables, intangibles, if you will.
It's that raw emotion that really carries this record a ton. I remember, I think this album might have been written about a friend of theirs who had passed due to maybe like something like an overdose. And that's a really tragic place to write an album from, you know, right? Like there's an emotional level to this that you hear come through constantly, song after song after song. And I think it's definitely why I connected with this album immediately when it dropped. It's that passion that shines through, like you said, those intangibles that really, really make this album special to me.
Here's the biggest intangible for me. I don't think that there's a single line that vocalist James DeBerg can't sell. And I will say, even though I feel they are a significantly better vocalist now than they were on this album, there is still something in that voice that just immediately connects and has a way of like churning any line into something that feels memorable and sticks with you.
Yeah.
It's weird how much of this just like works in ways that I can't quite describe, because like on paper, I don't think there's really anything that special here, but in practice, right, it's a fucking work of art.
On paper, it's like, it's definitely the most basic of the 1,000 Below albums, you know, sonically, especially, but like, I don't know. This one holds such a special place in my heart. There's definitely a couple of tracks that don't quite do it for me. I mean, Into the Gray, No Place Like You should have always been the closer on this one.
Okay.
And cutting it off at the 10 would have made a lot of sense. And Into the Gray just doesn't quite do it for me.
I will say,
at least maybe like it used to.
There are songs on here that I forgot how incredible they were, and the title track is an absolute fucking masterpiece. And
Fully
I think
agree.
The Wolf in the Sea is like weirdly something I would say is like an all-timer for this band.
It's their forgotten gem.
Yes, precisely correct. Marcus, all of that being said, how are you feeling?
I think this only goes in 4 categories, and they're all above just okay.
Wow. All right. Well,
so that's what I'm saying. It's like there's only 4 it could ever be considered in here.
It's not the first.
Well,
it's not. We're not going that high. There's quite a bit here to like, but I don't know that any aspect of this album is quite exemplary in a way that gets it up here.
Can I hit you with something?
Sure.
I think it's the top of that bitch.
You put this over Finding God before.
It's a more consistent album. Well, I mean, if it's, do you would you challenge me and say it's behind it? Because there's no way this album's just okay to you.
No, it's better than that. I think yes. This is my pause. Is it better than this?
So you're saying not GOAT, not masterpiece, not hood classic?
I don't think it's a hood classic. I think they release a hood classic later in their career, if I'm being honest.
Sure.
I don't think it's this.
I hate how we named these.
Is it better than Finding God Before God Finds Deluxe? I don't know.
If it wasn't Deluxe.
I'm going to be real with you. I don't know that Limits is on this album. I don't know that Dethrone is on this album.
I don't disagree.
And I know the point you're kind of making, like, overall, do I enjoy it more? I might argue I enjoy it just as much, and it does not have the same heavy hitters. I'm going to push back. I think it goes directly behind it, not in front of it. I'm open to a stronger argument, though.
I don't know if it's. Yeah, I mean, let's go with that.
Okay,
let's go with that.
Right.
I don't want this to be the hill I die on.
I feel a lot better about this. I feel like we'd be pushing it a little too far into like personal taste trajectory.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I don't like this. A lot of this feels a little bit like, man, some of the like mix and production on this is a bit rough. You know what I mean?
I disagree. I think this album sounds great.
Interesting. Still. I could understand if it's something that you there's sometimes I feel like James get a little lost in the mix. Like I feel like it's a little washed out in that sense. Like this feels like a debut in a way that like I really enjoy it in a cute way, but like I wouldn't like put it in like the same league as some of these other albums.
All right, but just to be clear, it's definitely not just okay.
Oh no, it's still
this clears anything
it's
in that
better
level.
Than everything down here by far.
Okay.
I could maybe theoretically see it at the top of just okay, but on the naming convention alone, I would never call this album just okay. Yeah. It's better than that to me. Out of the gates, 1000 Below came out like firing on all cylinders.
100%. Yeah, this looks fine.
Marcus, our final album, From Death to Destiny by Asking Alexandria.
Nearly a decade old.
3 contributors let us know that this was the 3rd album from Asking Alexandria and last before Danny Worsnop's retirement from the band. He would later rejoin. The whole album was written about Danny's and other band members' drug and alcohol addicting, exemplified perfectly on The Death of Me. I'm going to assume they meant addictions and move on from there. Marcos. This album feels like it has so much fucking baggage to me. It's almost impossible to like.
Why was this track listing going so long? Just to be clear,
keeps going and going.
We only heard up to track 12. I mean,
yeah, I didn't do the deluxe on this. Boom, right here.
Yeah,
we stopped right there. Though that being said, I have heard.
I mean, the rock
songs.
Mix is there. Yeah, heard Dead.
Heard the fucking acoustic version of someone somewhere. It's all there. Okay. I will say this. All right, let's start at the top.
All right.
Don't Pray For Me is an all-time album opener. Just the fucking audacity of it. Just the audacity to have something that was like so explicitly about one of the members and their problem and the problem that the band had with that member, and then just to throw it in there and then just have them come on that same track singing. There's just something so fucking wild about it. Bands don't do shit like this anymore. I'm sorry. They just don't. Like, Asking Alexandria was on a whole other fucking wavelength when they fucking came up with this bullshit, right? And then to immediately follow it up with Killing You, The Death of Me, and Run Free. Like, out of the gate, starting lineup goes fucking insane on this album.
It's a crazy run.
And then it's like a little fucking all over the place.
It gets pretty fucking awful from there, I'm not going to lie.
Awful? Come on.
But, I mean, outside of Poison and Believe and Moving On...
Okay, well, you got me there. Yeah, those are my arguments.
Break Down the Walls is one of this band's worst songs, and I say that having heard their last 4 records.
Yeah, I mean, what you can see...
White Line Fever is one of this band's worst songs, and I say that having heard those last 4 albums.
Brutal. You can see the push and pull of who this band was and who this band wanted to be happening throughout the course of the back half of this record.
But they get it right, and in certain instances, Moving On is an arguably great track.
Yeah, I almost think Moving On was too good of a track because it instilled a certain confidence in this band to completely like wash their hands of a lot of what they were doing in their last few records. It's still crazy to me to think that the follow-up to this is The Black. Like, it really blows my fucking mind.
It's
because they reverted.
It's a crazy timeline.
Like, they reverse course so hard with The Black because they felt like they had no other choice, only to bring Danny back, have to release another version of From Death to Destiny with their self-titled, and then go full steam ahead with what they would have done had Danny not left the band to begin with.
Run Free, like for some of the worst songs in this band's history being on this album, it's got some of their best. I won't.
Believe is such an underrated track. It's
Believe
insane.
is really underrated.
Insane.
Run Free is extremely underrated. And I know it was like the first single for this record and all that too, but like I feel like that song never got the proper love that it deserved.
Yeah, and I think it's because it was like a slight transition from what people had become accustomed to, so nobody had like fully like glommed on to this band's like new offerings. I think if Run Free was a track they had dropped, say, within the last 2 records that they've put out, people would have absolutely lost their fucking mind and said that like this band was experiencing some sort of like resurgence or second coming. Sure. You know what I mean? They were almost like too far ahead of themselves with Run Free. Like they needed to like the go ahead for this album should have been like Killing You or something, and we should have held on to Run Free for a little longer.
I think
because
Poison,
I swear that song was like being played on like Warped Tour like long before this album even came out.
You might be right. Poison, I think, is one of this band's most underrated songs in general.
It's the perfect example of a deep cut. Like nobody really remembers that fucking song, but the second it comes out of this album, it's like, fuck me.
Isn't the line like, I hope they kill you all. I hope I never see your faces again. Like there's just like this visceralness on that track. There's energy that you barely get on some of the other tracks on here, like fucking Creature or White Line Fever. I hope they kill you all. I hope I never see your faces again. I want to watch the whole world burn. It's so fucking tight. It's such a good song. Really impressive.
That's good shit.
These words, they fall off my tongue like a poison.
Crazy shit.
I go back and forth though. You talk about Don't Pray For Me being a really great opener on here. Listening to it nearly 10 years later on, honestly, to this whole album, Danny sounds pretty fucking bad. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, but I mean, there's something... Okay, we're talking specifically about Don't Pray For Me. There's something about like capturing such a specific window, like place and time with that song. It's just like wild. And it almost, I don't know, forgives Danny for everything that comes after it. Like it's an incredible way to like set up this album. You know what I mean?
Sure. As far as like delivery though, like screaming sounds not good on this album.
Yeah.
When in comparison,
it's rough.
Like those first two albums are like some of the best screaming you've ever heard in your life. You know, like,
yeah, fair.
Like Danny Worsnop takes such a weird, he's way all over the place on this album. It's not all bad by any means, but like
and
when
crazy
it's
they
bad,
bring Dennis Stoff in after, and he's such a fucking insane talent for that specific like aspect of his voice.
Yeah. When this is bad, it is noticeably bad.
I want to say, and this isn't a track that's like Danny screaming, quite the opposite. The Road is quite the fucking boring follow-up that is also moving on, but not as good.
Yeah.
And we didn't need two of these. It literally plays as a continuation of that song, but it's nowhere nearly as compelling.
Yep. The one track we've sort of not shown here, track 12, the true closing track. Did you remember Howard Jones on this at all? I didn't.
And I will also say this, that Until the End is such a forgettable song. I forgot it was the ending of this album.
Yeah. So like overall, I still don't fully know where I stand. I'm glad we're talking this through.
Overall, I think it's better than these guys.
I don't know if I agree.
Interesting. I would rather listen to this album than anything that's going on here.
I think
from start to finish, like if we're talking from start to finish, this album it's either ahead of all of these guys in this tier or it's a tier above.
I think for me, it might be Silverstein's the only competition in this tier for me, because I think both of them have those good tracks and then those really fucking tough ones to sit through tracks.
Yeah, though I will argue
the question is, does Asking have more better tracks on it? And I'm like,
more better is a fantastic way of like saying it too. Let it be noted. All right.
I could see this at the very bottom of Just Okay, but I don't think I'd take it over anything else.
Be fucking real with me though right now. Would you rather listen to this?
Oh, stop.
Or the Wonder Years Greatest Generations? Oh yeah, that's where I'm going with this shit. Be real with me right now.
So what are you talking about? Is this behind Amorosa? Because that's the furthest I could see it climbing. I know it's in the room with us right now. Like I love you, but I still think you're very extremely broken.
There's a level, I'm not going to lie. There's a level of nostalgia I have with like this album and Asking Alexandria that I forgive some of the elements that are truly bad while also acknowledging that they are quite bad.
There's a reason I wasn't that broken up about fucking Danny Worsnop exiting this band.
White Line Fever, Break Down the Walls, dear God. Like, those songs should have never, ever fucking seen the light of day.
For any band, not just Asking.
And by the way, we could have cut both of them and still had 10 tracks, and we would probably look at this album in a way that's pretty favorable.
Yeah. Actually, yes. I don't know, man.
You're right that it doesn't have all-time songs like even these two albums do. But what would I rather listen to? Is it like a weird thing?
Is that a different game?
Even a middling Asking Alexandria for me is more exciting than a lot of other bands, and that's saying something. Okay, this version of middling Asking Alexandria. Yeah. We're not talking about the last few years, which is like, if I never saw those albums again in my life, it would be too soon. This is a toughie, I'm gonna be honest.
This is one of the tougher ones we've had to rate.
Because this might actually be a better album, and I'm letting a little bit of favoritism tell me that I want to listen to this because it's my preferred.
And for so long, we dismissed the Wonder Years specifically and pop punk specifically in favor of records like this, but also this album's not great.
And I feel like I'm eating my own argument earlier where I'm saying that, like, you know, this album is like, even though my personal taste would tell me I want to listen to it over some other albums, I know instinctually that it's not maybe technically better than a lot of other records. That's kind of how I'm looking at this. It's somewhere in here. All right. It's above I Set My Friends on Fire. It's above Slipknot. It's above Amir. That's easy.
But then, like you said, we start getting into the arguments of like, well, do I want to listen to that Knocked Loose album or this Asking album? It's probably the Asking album because that's my preference.
Do you want to listen to this or Silverstein?
But I'm saying, like, is that the right approach?
I mean, there has to be something to the argument that you'd prefer to listen to this record when you're also a fan of these two other bands. Like, I don't think it's an unfair thing to say that there is certain aspects of this record that even in spite of its weaknesses, its highs are so high that, like,
it carries some of it.
Right. So it's like, ultimately, I would probably say I'm a bigger fan of like Run Free and Believe than I am, I can't believe I'm saying this, Smile in Your Sleep, and My Heroine, even though I can appreciate that those are all-time emo songs. I just think that Asking Alexandria makes more compelling heavy music than Silverstein does.
Is it pretty mid or just okay then?
I still say neither of these two albums have a song nearly as good as Counting Worms. The problem is that I think the rest of this album hurts though that song. I don't know. I don't fucking know here. Like it's somewhere in here. What feels better?
I don't know. It all feels bad.
It all does feel incorrect. I think
it's better than Amir and Slipknot.
I think truthfully it's this for me. I can't believe I'm saying it, but it's this for me. I think that this might have been the beginning of the end for Asking Alexandria in some aspects, though I am quite fond of their self-titled. We'll leave that conversation for when we get to it.
Some year.
This is the first time you saw cracks in a band that you saw, like, we both thought was infallible.
Prior to this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like those first two albums. We'll wait till we get to them. You know what I mean? Whatever. This is how I feel, honestly.
Yeah, this looks fine. I'm okay with that. So there
I
you go.
love the symmetry this of the L we've built ourselves here.
This week, an overall pretty good one. Finally, some company in that bitch.
Hey, we listened to the best record we've ever listened to this week.
Yeah.
Based on all the albums we've heard so far. Marcos, 20 total records? Is that where we sit? Yes, it is. Interesting. Okay. We've only listened to 20 Seed albums so far.
And about 20 come out every Friday, so we're going to be doing this for a while.
All right, this is a never-ending tat. This is our penance in some way. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Once again, if you want early access to these, or if you even want to suggest an album, it's worth noting that Dispose and The Love You Let Too Close were suggested by our patrons. Patreon.com/SOTS podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Good fucking play.